Alright, listen to me. I hate it when people make their points at the end of a video talking about absolutely nothing beforehand. So let me tell you the truth first, and then I'll back up my claim. Don't click the dislike button yet. At least, let me give you the reason for it first. The sad truth about Hogwarts Legacy is this. The only reason why this game became so popular, so loved, and why it sold 12 million copies in 2 weeks is because it's related to Harry Potter. Now, am I a salty Elden Ring fan? Probably, but just hear me out. Think about it, if this was just any generic Wizard open world game like, I don't know, Wizard's WoW World, I guarantee you it wouldn't be this big. My point here is that if you're a Harry Potter fan, you'll enjoy this game a lot. From what I've heard and from what I've seen, it's very accurate to the books and movies. However, from an actual game perspective, as someone who's played countless other games, especially in this format, Hogwarts Legacy is just not good, and I'm baffled that not many people have talked about this yet. When I bought this game, I knew next to nothing about Harry Potter. The only things I knew was Smosh's old video, The Potter Pill, and of course, Avada. Now listen, if you like this game, I have no quarrel with you. It's a video game, not politics, but think about it like this. I bought this game from a neutral perspective. I have no ties to the universe, so in my mind, I'm looking solely at the story and gameplay. I don't care where it is in the timeline. I don't care about the Easter eggs or accuracy compared to the books. My main point to this video is to tear down that veil and reveal the major issues of Hogwarts Legacy. Again, if you like this game, good on you. Seriously, I'm glad you like it. But from my perspective, this game is a mere 40%. So without further ado, my name is Josh, also known as Gore Magala, and I hope you enjoy. First, let's talk about the story, because I think there's potential here. But the pacing was way off. And it's not just this game, many open world games suffer from this. One moment you're testing your skills in ancient trials with ancient wizards, and the next you're running errands with fellow peers. That's like trying to fit Legos together with actual bricks. It simply doesn't work. And in general, the flow of the entire plot was not smooth, even in the slightest. And you know what? I could forgive that. But the main issue was Hogwarts had a boring story with mostly boring characters. Professor Fig was mediocre at best. He didn't really add much to the game besides being a slave to the tutorial and his backstory. I actually didn't mind his lore about his wife and such. As a matter of fact, his wife, who is dead by the way, I think has about equal personality to Professor Fig. That's sad. I look back on my playthrough and wonder, what did he really do? What did Professor Fig accomplish in order for me to grow attached to him? Well, most of what he did was off camera. He warned the Ministry about the goblins, he distracted the headmaster, he got everyone ready for the final skirmish. I mean, come on, there was one point in the story where Headmaster Black actually needed Fig, so the player had to do the next part alone. It's almost like they don't even want him in the game. Here's my live reaction to Professor Fig's death. That's when I know a game has failed its characters, where I laugh at a supposed sad death. I've noticed now that these characters really didn't show much emotion, at all. If they were sad or angry, their face stayed the same, and their tone perhaps changed a little bit, but that's it. Figgy Boy over here is just one of the many bland characters in the game, but I do want to point out my favorite, Sebastian. I actually liked his goal, his personality, and he was one of the more realistic characters in the game. As you take on his side quest, you learn that his twin sister Anne was cursed with dark magic, so you get to see the lengths that Sebastian will go in order to save his sister. In the end, she's never cured, their uncle dying by his own hands. It's a very tragic story that was 100 times better than the main narrative, and Sebastian actually showed more emotion than any other character in the game. And I mean, yeah, besides Sebastian's story, I barely paid attention to anything after about mid-game. At that point, I was listening to Reddit scary stories or watching anime edits on TikTok. And I know what you're thinking, well then how did you know what the story was if you weren't paying attention? I was watching the main story cutscenes, and I was reading some of the dialogue here and there, so I knew what it was. But let's switch gears for a moment and talk about Ranrock, the main villain of the story. Villains are crucial, they're what drive the story or give tension and some other aspects, but for a video game, they can dish out some incredible fights for the player to test their skills on. Ranrock is perhaps one of the most generic, cliche villains I've ever seen in a video game. Oh, I'm evil and need more power so I can take over the world and goblin kind shall rule. Yeah, I was wondering, are you by chance related to Sephiroth, Ganondorf, or Andross? Because you guys have exactly the same goals. Now the reasons why differ, which make or break the villain, but for Ranrock, why does he want it? What's his motivation? He hates wizards. I can't. Why does he hate wizards? What's his backstory? Can he activate the Sharingan? Look at those eyes. All you need is one genjutsu and you win. You see how they simply stop there and never dive deeper into why or who he is? I think the concept is good, but they never take it the extra mile, or even a quarter mile for that matter. Ranrock is evil and wants what we're after. That's all we have. We have leftover pasta from 2 weeks ago, and we have to eat it. But perhaps his fight is good. He's the final boss after all. See, I don't think so, but not because of him specifically. I just think that the combat is not all that grand. I do enjoy the curse spells and some of the others are fun to use, but for the most part it's spam, 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 dodge, protect, protego, spam, spam. It just gets boring after a while. It becomes repetitive. Almost like I was on cruise mode until Ranrock actually. But anyways, Ranrock uses the dark magic to transform himself into a dragon, which I would give this game a perfect score if he stayed in goblin form and we could just simply Avada Kedavra him. That would be hilarious. Instead, we have to use spells in order to break down his barriers, then we can harm him. It's alright, honestly. I get the idea. Nothing crazy to be said. I did enjoy it, even if it was for about like 8 minutes. But here's the crazy part that I want to mention. Ganondorf is pretty much identical to Ranrock. He wants power for the sake of power, or to destroy or take over Hyrule, depending on the game you play, so he's not that deep of a character. But I love him as a villain. Why? Bias. Nostalgia. I grew up with Zelda, therefore I think that everything about the games are perfect. And if there is something that doesn't make sense, we fans try to find the deeper meaning behind it to compensate. There's nothing wrong with that. If you love Hogwarts Legacy, I can make an accurate summation that it's also because you love Harry Potter. You probably grew up with it. I'm simply stating my opinion from a neutral perspective. With that being said, let's talk about the open world aspect, considering this was a huge selling point for the game. This has got to be one of the most basic, generic, minimalistic open worlds I have ever seen. If you're wondering what my past experience is, my qualifications, I've played Ghost of Tsushima, Red Dead 2, both Horizon games, Elden Ring, Far Cry 3 and 5, currently playing 6 right now with a buddy of mine, Breath of the Wild, and more. I can tell you right now, without question, that Hogwarts Legacy has the absolute worst open world I've ever had the displeasure of experiencing. I'm saying this as I'm getting one of the most beautiful shots I've ever gotten in a video game. Trust me, the open world is pretty barren. Just let me show you. For one, most of the map is a barren wasteland. What is this, my YouTube comment section? Although, to be fair, the dragon bush is pretty cool. This isn't to say that there's not anything to do, there is plenty, but here we have the main crux of the problem. The content itself. Merlin Trials, these things are completely useless. For those who don't know, Merlin Trials are puzzles to solve in order to increase your gear slots. Guess how many I solved on my first playthrough? 0. There was no need for me to increase my gear slots at all. I had no issues with selling my old wardrobe and continuing forward. It makes no sense why this would be a thing. It holds no value. Now, Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild are very similar. You can increase your inventory, except the main difference here is Link's gear can break. It's important, it's necessary to have the ability to hold more gear so you can keep on fighting without running out of weapons. Hogwarts Legacy also has treasure vaults, but again, they're easy to solve, and what you get in return for exploring is not worth the trouble. Elden Ring had plenty of dungeons to venture into. Not only do you get a boss fight, which I'll admit, sometimes they were pretty poopy, but you may get new armor, weapons, talismans, or helpful items. These rewards may change up your playstyle entirely. You can start out using a strength build, and then when you find, I don't know, the Wing of Estelle for example, you might switch to be an intelligence build. There's so much reward value to the dungeons you explore in Elden Ring that on my first playthrough, I made sure to find every dungeon I could. If this was Hogwarts Legacy, I would maybe find some clothing, perhaps a new trait, and some money. That's it. Many of the items that you find simply don't matter in the long run or are even worse than the gear you currently have. It's a very linear experience when it comes to finding better equipment. Does it have bigger numbers? Yes? Alright then. I will say though, customization is really good. You can look like an alien who doesn't understand fashion or a knight from the Crusades. I did my best throughout my playthrough to look like anything else other than a wizard. There's also the fact that I do enjoy saving the wildlife. You can capture a variety of beasts and farm them for materials to either upgrade or attach traits to your equipment. That I think is pretty cool. But on a serious note, my favorite part of the game was simply the beginning. I love Hogwarts itself, such a vast space of exploration, finding puzzles that were actually fun, illegal fight clubs for clobbering fellow students, the usual schooling activities. I just wish the game resolved more around the school. I don't mind going outside of school grounds, but I think the school itself is where it's at. I also like the professors a lot, especially Professor Garlic. I don't think I need to explain that. That's just what I think though. But when it comes to my scoring on games, I like to give 2. One for what the game was trying to accomplish, and one based on personal preference. Based on what the developers were looking for, I give it a solid 75%. Though open world can use a lot of work, the story was poorly paced and the characters were quite bland, but I know for sure that people who enjoy Harry Potter will enjoy this game regardless. I remember watching a video reading text from one of the books about a specific room in the game, and it was exactly how the book described it, which is very impressive. Now, based on personal preference, as I already mentioned in the beginning, a mere 40%. I didn't really enjoy this game. I just felt like it was boring, it was poorly knitted together. Again, the open world sucked, and even the combat was kind of mediocre. But again, I can see the appeal for those who love Harry Potter. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and like I said earlier, I have a challenge run in the works for this game, and I'm gonna see how that goes. It's already proving to be quite impossible, but we'll manage. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and to subscribe for more content like this. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone, and of course, stay safe.